This video is brought to you by BetterHelp. Guys, do you ever feel like there's really not enough hours in the day? Because no matter how much I jam-pack my life with pointless Twitter exchanges or making sure that I keep up with all the most recent philosophy books or exercising so that I can stay in shape, I always feel like I'm falling further and further behind. And every Instagram life coach and LinkedIn tech bro seems to have big ideas on how I can optimize my life. But honestly, nothing has ever seemed to work. I'm chasing a sort of productivity rainbow, and the pot of gold is just always out of reach. You know, there's never enough time.
Oh, there's no time.
No time! There's never any time!
So either the productivity leprechauns are messing with me, or something much less whimsical is going on. We're more technologically advanced than ever, so shouldn't we have more time and not less? Who profits when we optimize ourselves into oblivion? What is the cost of this relentless pursuit to become, and I'll say it, better, faster, stronger? Well, hey, let's find out in this video on why there's no time to be human. But before we go on, I want to stop and thank this video sponsor, BetterHelp. Now, if you've experienced anxiety, depression, or just kind of felt overwhelmed lately, BetterHelp is a resource that can help you feel better. And I've talked about this before. I'm someone that struggles with depression and with ADHD, and having a therapist and someone to talk to has been really, really helpful for me. And I think it's really something you gotta do if you're feeling any of those things. BetterHelp's network of more than 30,000 therapists are ready to listen to and help you. After you take a brief questionnaire, you'll be matched with a therapist whose expertise fits your unique needs. And thanks to BetterHelp's remote model, you can work with a therapist whose skills might not otherwise be available in your area. You can message your therapist at any time, and you're gonna receive timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule your choice of phone or video session to receive counseling in real time. And in the event that you and your therapist aren't a perfect match, you can easily switch to a new one for no additional charge. So join the more than 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with BetterHelp by visiting betterhelp.com/wisecrack. Or you can just click the link in the video description. When you do, you're gonna get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wisecrack. Now, let's get back to the show. Now, according to my old pal Merriam-Webster, optimization is an act, process, or methodology of making something as fully perfect, functional, or effective as possible. And in the case of self-optimization, that something is you. So where does our obsession with optimization come from? Well, in the early 20th century, German sociologist Max Weber noted that the Protestant work ethic transformed being productive into a moral and spiritual ideal. In essence, the grind is close to godliness, and lazy people can go lounge on their couches in hell. Shout it out in the comments if you think hell is real, and tell us what you think it will be like, and also if I'm going there. Now, this explains why we might feel guilty asking for a week of vacation time. Over the last century, a variety of factors converged to make us fixated on unlimited growth and personal improvement. First off, the Industrial Revolution gave working people the opportunity to eke their way up the economic ladder. Simultaneously, people shifted from finding meaning in religion to looking for it in factories and offices. After World War II, the self-improvement industry exploded, and psychologists shifted from treating severe conditions like PTSD to what Andreas Reckwitz calls the improvement of what is mediocre. And by mediocre, I mean anxiety, depression, and my fear sometimes that my coworkers think that I'm lazy. Now, flash forward to the 90s, which gave us both flannel shirts and flexible capitalism, which is the idea that workers could be free agents who sold their services to the highest bidder, all while companies wouldn't have to worry about overheads, stuff like health insurance. The field of computer science was also on the rise, and with it, optimization as a term entered the cultural zeitgeist, which makes sense considering it's the practice of trying to become more and more like a computer. Speaking of people becoming computers, shout out to anyone who's watching this video on the new Apple goggle. And also, whoa! I'm sorry, but I just wanted to see if I could knock you over. The new grind set wouldn't have been possible without the internet, which gave workers the opportunity to work from anywhere, which incidentally allowed work to invade our homes. Leave a comment and let me know if your dining table is also your office. Also, I know that people like to say that working from home is good, but you ever think about how when you work from home, it feels like you're free, but really your office is now just encroached your living space, in a space that used to be for privacy, for relationships, for love, for happiness, for doing it, is now a space where you have to work. And then you wake up in the middle of the night and you see that chair and you think, that is my work chair. I am at work and I'm in my underwear. Now, this destroyed the barrier between public and private life. Whereas before, the focus of optimization was on work performance, now the focus of optimization is on every aspect of our existence. Quick note, if you dig learning about the history of work, productivity, optimization, you can check out these past videos for a deeper dive. Find out
Is it bad?
Did you get all that? No? Okay, you can just go watch them one by one after this. I just wanted to save you some time. And hey, if you do like watching our videos, 1 or 4 at a time, consider checking out our Patreon. There's a link in the description. We give you all the videos early with no ads. We have a lot of extra content, Discord server, and of course, it's the best way for you to directly support us and make us less dependent on algorithms and advertising and economic structures that we don't understand. So there's a link in the description. Check it out. Thank you so much. Today, being productive has become a moral virtue. As workplace strategist Melissa Gregg points out, it's productivity at the core of a framework for ethical living through work that exceeds any singular cultural or religious belief system. And optimization is everywhere. You know, a lot of us listen to our podcast at 2 times speed. We have 3 monitors on our desk. We're convinced that we can multitask, even though experts say that it's impossible. There's infinite Instagram and TikTok accounts that make us feel guilty for not accomplishing more, promising that the secret to productivity is to hang your goals in the shower so you can see them every day. But no matter what we do, no matter what I do, it never feels like enough. Because self-optimization isn't about becoming a better person. It's about making your hard work pay off by bringing your life added value. And this value isn't centered around eating more greens or getting more sleep or reading poetry or thinking introspectively about your ethical obligations to your community. Rather, it's centered around being more successful than your online friends. And at least for this guy, that doesn't feel great. And I do feel taunted by my ever-growing to-do list, both the one I wrote in the journal that I start every year that I abandon, in my notes app, and in the emails I write myself in the middle of the night that then get buried by ads and other stuff. And every day, I'm trying to catch up. You know, I read while I'm exercising. I send emails while I'm eating my breakfast. I take my first meeting while I'm in the bathroom. But before I can flush and wipe, I'm already behind. That wasn't a pun, but I guess behind, because if I'm... Now, we always feel like we could be doing more. We stop questioning whether there's too much on our plate and focus on how to manage it all as efficiently as possible. And when we can't, we don't blame the institutions or societal forces that make us so busy. Instead, we sometimes just blame ourselves. And ironically, a lot of optimization tactics, stuff like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, aren't magical methods of self-mastery, but involve outsourcing your busy work to underpaid laborers in countries like the Philippines. Just a tiny bit of workplace economic colonial exploitation to biohack your way to happiness or something. Studies have even found that privileged folks are better equipped to manage and outsource productivity than people in the lower class. Because shockingly, it's true that time is money, and these people with all the money can just use all the money to buy all the time.
For a few to be immortal, many must die.
So that said, what are the economics of optimization, and how did time become such a precious commodity? Well, we can't talk about optimization without discussing the wider social context under which it operates. Specifically, in a capitalist system predicated on unadulterated growth and the accumulation of capital. And how do you do that most productively? Optimization, or the process of fine-tuning how to make more capital faster. On a large scale, this means companies' success depends on the economic productivity of their workers, which is how you get leadership like Wayfair's CEO telling their employees they need to work harder so the company can earn more money, and then waiting for the holidays to pass and then laying a bunch of those people off. It's no longer enough to just be good at your job and a fun hang in the break room, or a good sharer of memes on Slack. In this hyper-competitive, globalized economy, we have to become faster, smarter, and more creative while enjoying fewer protections and feeling increasingly disposable. For those of us in the States, losing our job doesn't just mean losing income or self-worth. It means we also lose health insurance for ourselves and our families. It's a great system we got. As an added insult to all this injury, we also have to be nicer now that anyone can call you out with a 1-star review or write hurtful YouTube comments that don't bother you at all. Listen, that was a joke, and most of them don't bother me, but once someone said one that hurt my feelings, and I showed it to my wife, and my wife pointed out that the username was like hamster penis 42069, and all I had to do was Google how big is a hamster penis to feel way better. So next time you're feeling down, just Google how big is a hamster penis. Now, if this all doesn't feel sustainable, you're right, because we're not machines. Or at least I thought that we weren't machines, because according to tech entrepreneur Serge Faget, we are complex robots. Robots can be tuned and improved. In the Industrial Revolution, artisans turned factory workers were constantly compared to the enormous machines they operated. And today, we get to be compared to Alexa. But here's the thing, we're not robots, except for the guy that's wearing his Apple goggles while his cartoon toy truck drives for him. That guy kind of is. But when we're expected to operate like robots, we're conditioned to be okay being treated less like humans. Conventional wisdom suggests that the secret to winning our lives back is to work smarter, not harder, as if becoming a better worker is simply a matter of willpower. We have the tools to make our jobs better and more efficient. We just have to harness them. But all of these Slack pings and meetings and email scheduling conveniently distract us from the structural conditions that led us to work this much in the first place. So if you're falling behind at the office, it's up to you to figure out how to manage your time, not to question why the superiors think that you should be able to do 10 people's jobs, including their own. We blame ourselves for our failures instead of the systems that set us up to fail. Vanessa Ciccone put it best. No longer is it a matter of doing less, it is simply about managing it all better. By encouraging us to look inward, optimization distracts us from when and why it became necessary for work to invade our personal lives. It encourages us to ignore work-life boundaries and make our personal time as productive as possible. We're becoming the Wayfair CEO of our own lives, beating ourselves up for not getting more done. And we're incentivized to do this. Studies show we increasingly derive pleasure and satisfaction from productivity. I can assure you, I was not questioned in that study because I would have said something different. While there's nothing inherently wrong with being productive, much like eating sugar, if you're never satiated and the withdrawal makes you cranky, you're probably addicted. Fortunately, there is a market-oriented solution to soothe your productivity anxiety. When you feel ashamed for not being productive at work, you can alleviate those feelings by being more productive at home. Sure, productivity may turn us into sleep-deprived head cases, but baby, at least we're getting a lot of done. As Andrew Wilkinson pointed out, most successful people are just a walking anxiety disorder harnessed for productivity. Our need to produce means every minute of the day, not just those spent on the clock, are quantified as productive and non-productive. Let's say taking a walk, not productive. Taking a walk while listening to a podcast about how to harness your secret potential and overcome burnout, productive. Watching a TV show after a long day's work, not productive. Reading an article on your phone about how non-productive time is actually conducive to increased productivity later, productive. And even when we do rest, we justify it by convincing ourselves that it'll ultimately make us more productive. You know, there's all these articles about like, oh, if you take a nap at the right time during your workday, then you get up, you'll work harder. And this is all pretty depressing. We feel guilty for spending time with friends and family, dancing, painting, studying philosophy, or giving The Sopranos rewatch our full attention because, well, there's no economic reward for doing so. Unless you're one of those influencers who's figured out how to monetize all of these non-economic activities into bankable content, in which case, congrats, and also, are you okay? Our quest for self-optimization and self-improvement has no end. Cedarstrom and Spicer observed, in a consumerist society, we are not meant to buy one pair of jeans and then be satisfied. Same goes for our careers, our bodies, even our souls. No matter how much time and money we invest in our 401k or our abs, the work is never done. We are always in need of an upgrade. And no matter how much progress we make, no matter how many times we take a wellness workshop or stay at work late, it's never enough. We're never living completely in the moment because we're thinking about the next item on our to-do list. The end result is that we feel like our lives are racing by with, as psychologist Sven Brinkman puts it, scant regard for the content or the meaning of what we are doing. Now, there's a political upside in keeping us chasing after the optimization carrot, because when we don't have time to stop and think, not only do we not question unfair occupational expectations, we also don't have time to confront the bigger issues that drive us to be productive in the first place. Our pursuit of optimization encourages us to make the best of our 60-hour work weeks rather than challenging whether that system is right or even sustainable. But what would happen if we did have time? Well, consider what happened when our society had what felt like too much, even unlimited time during the pandemic. Not to mention that we also got government supplemented healthcare, and they sent checks to our houses with money in them. But during the COVID lockdown, there was a surge in Black Lives Matter protest and political activity. Why? Probably at least in part because people had a minute to stop and think and analyze and critique something other than their own sleep hygiene. For once, time wasn't about productivity. It was about interrogating our culture and ourselves. We had a minute to stop and observe what was going on in the world, then to go outside and congregate and make our angst known. But then the world rebooted, and now we're all right back on the productivity hamster wheel. It's hard not to feel stuck. But can anything short of a once-in-a-generation plague successfully rescue us? To answer that, we're gonna have to acknowledge just how deep the problem goes. According to philosopher Byung-Chul Han, the culture of optimization is even more insidious than it might seem, as it tricks us into thinking we're freely developing ourselves while we're unconsciously giving more of our lives over to labor. He writes that neoliberalism represents a highly efficient, indeed an intelligent system for exploiting freedom. While we might feel like we're freely expressing as we optimize our lives, we're more like the host of an economic parasite that's using us to achieve its own ends. Sorry for making you feel like you have a parasite inside of you. You know, that's nightmare stuff right there. But at least know that it's only a metaphoric economic parasite and not a bug that lives inside of you. Han goes on to write that individual freedom amounts to servitude inasmuch as capital lays hold of it and uses it for its own propagation. Another one of the evil efficiencies of this parasitic drive is that, as Han sees it, people who fail in the neoliberal achievement society see themselves as responsible for their lot and feel shame instead of questioning society or the system, which is why it's easier for us to look at our unrealized goals and feel stupid and lazy than it is for us to step back and consider whether what seems like an issue of personal morality is actually systemic exploitation. While we're told that optimization is about making us happier, more efficient, and more successful, all of that self-directed labor ultimately serves an inhuman economic system. As Han writes, the neoliberal imperative of self-optimization serves only to promote perfect functioning within the system. And this directly contradicts the quasi-spiritual narrative by which we are becoming better people via optimization. He explains it is not concern for the good life that drives self-optimization. Rather, self-optimization follows from systemic constraint, from the logic of quantifying success on the market. And friends, it's not just that this sucks. It's also having devastating effects on our psyches, leading more and more of us to seek out cures for exhaustion, burnout, and depression. Post your cure for those things in the comments. Han writes that perpetual self-optimization, which coincides point for point with the optimization of the system, is proving destructive. It is leading to mental collapse. Self-optimization, it turns out, amounts to total self-exploitation. In case you thought right now I was about to get real positive with it, nah, sadly, the bad news does not stop there, as this drive for optimization is also having an effect on our very experience of time. German sociologist Hartmut Rosa has written about this phenomenon, and in an interview said that whether or not we feel that we are short on time depends on the relationship between the time we have at our hands and the time we would need to fulfill our to-do list. Now, the problem of our society is that there is an ever-increasing mismatch between the two. In order to do all the things we must do or want to do properly, we would need 48 hours or so per day. Hence, we are always short on time, and we feel that time is running fast. But aside from just feeling like there's never enough time, Rosa thinks this acceleration can damage our subjectivity, because when we're constantly moving on to the next thing, trying to cram as much into every waking moment as possible, we don't have time to reflect on our lives and experiences. This makes us feel disconnected from ourselves. Rosa says that in late modern lives, we lose the capacity to appropriate our experiences. We do many things, but they do not really touch or affect us. At the end of the day, we have forgotten them. This is part of what I call alienation, because most of what we do does not leave any traces in our memory, biography, or identity. In this sort of alienation, we're detached from our own experiences, our own lives. It's that feeling of having a major breakthrough in therapy only to immediately race back to your computer to catch up on emails, and any emotional insights feel lost to the acceleration of time. And while Rosa doesn't think this problem can really be solved under our current economic situation, he's not without some hope, arguing that I am convinced that we will never get out of the acceleration cycle as long as we leave the economy unchanged. Markets and competition, in my view, need to be re-embedded in our social and cultural way of life, not the other way around. Hence, they need to be severely restricted through new forms of economic democracy. And you could check out his work if you want to learn more about this. One of his basic ideas for a solution here is a universal basic income. He also thinks we can fight alienation by seeking out its opposite, what he calls resonance in our relationships. This looks like moments when we are freely moved and connected, but also capable of reaching out and connecting ourselves. This is a way of relating to others that has nothing to do with acceleration and optimization, and everything to do with taking time to connect in a non-economic and non-productive fashion. But even this still involves systemic change, as according to Rosa, we can only make our world more resonant and less alienating when we change our own attitude, but also the structures of our social and economic world. A world that has time for resonance is a world in which we can more deeply empathize with the struggles going on all around us. It creates the sort of time which might also allow us to see that our infinite drive for self-optimization is actually a destructive drive towards self-exploitation, one that serves a system that has little regard for our inner emotional lives. And maybe, just maybe, this sort of time could allow us to collectively work towards dismantling a system that turns us into self-optimizing robot wannabes, and instead build a world that creates time and space for self-actualizing and resonating human beings to find value in things that can't be measured by the market. In the meantime, be honest with us and let us know at what speed you watched this video, how many other tabs you had open, and how many times you looked at your phone. And to be clear, no judgment. It's not your fault. It's the system, man. But hey, what do you guys think? Is self-optimization just forced exploitation in the guise of self-help? Can we still learn things from our favorite hustle influencers? Or do we need to embrace a less productive way of life? Please let me know what you think in the comments. And to be clear, I actually read them, so I really want to know. A huge shout out again to all of our patrons. There's a link in the description if you want to check out our Patreon page. You get videos with no ads, a bunch of extra content, access to our Discord server, and you support us directly, which helps a lot. But no matter what, thanks for being here, for watching the video, for engaging with us, for liking and subscribing. I say this every time, but it's true. It really helps us a lot. In the meantime, step away from the screen, take a deep breath, and let yourself be a non-productive human for a bit. I said that you're allowed to. So enjoy that, and I'll see you next time.